Welcome to Mary's Eclectic Interests. We're shooting today in the kitchen with Gary Legwold, and he is going to demonstrate making lefse. And welcome, Gary.
Thank you, Sue Ellen.
We are going to take a look at the variety of equipment that you use for making lefse. Would you like to explain some of the things that we're going to be talking about?
Sure. Well, lefse does involve a lot of equipment. You can get by without it, but it makes it for a nicer experience if you have it. We'll start here with the pins. These are super duper lefse rolling pins. This is the one I normally use. It's a pin from Bethany Housewares. But these are pins made by members of the Minnesota Woodturners Association. And the idea is that they are to be used and then displayed. They're functional pieces of art. They are made on a lathe. This one, for example, is cherry and walnut. This is walnut and spalted maple. These are spalted maple, as is this. This is all cherry. So if you have a nice pin, you can pass it on to your kids and they'll be thrilled to receive it. Underneath is and we'll see this when we're rolling it out, this is a pastry cloth covering a lefse rolling board. It really makes it nice for rolling versus on a countertop. These three are ricers. With potato lefses, you boil potatoes, you mash them, and then rice them. I rice them twice. For years, I used this one, and it sort of worked, and then I went and got this one, and it sort of worked. And then I heard of a site by Becky Latka. She's down in Nevada, and this works the best. She's got about 50 of these things, and they're sturdier, and they work the best. But you need a ricer.
Okay, and what about the bowls in the set?
The bowls. These are my favorite parts. These are my grandmother's. This was Grandma Legwold's. She used it for years, and then I got it. And this is from my Grandma Gehring on my mom's side. This is my favorite. I love blue, and I use it all the time. It's got little cracks in it, so I handle it with care. But when you make lefse, it's very nice to have something that reminds you of your grandma. So these bowls qualify for that. Moving over, we've got, I'll get to the grills later. These are lefse sticks, and they're used for picking up lefse and turning it off the grill. This one is handmade by a friend of mine in Washington. These are also gifts. These are sticks that you can buy at gift shops, Scandinavian shops. These four are made by a woodturner, Jim Jacobs. And the idea is, put that in your hand. Feel that handle. They're wonderful on the hands.
Oh, is that fabulous?
And they're beautiful to look at. So they're great pins, and again, you pass these on to your kids, they'll be thrilled. Okay, so then we get into the grills. This center grill is the one I often use. It's covered with Teflon, and you can use this right out of the box.
Okay.
These is just aluminum. You have to season it a bit with just a little bit of flour. It's no big deal, and it's about $20 cheaper. The thing with lefse grills, this part won't wear out, but the electrical part will. This gets up to 500 degrees, and people will use these all day, and this part will burn out. So they advise you to change out your electrical element every hour, just so that it rests it. Okay, so then we have a couple of old, this one is an old Bethany lefse grill. I got it from an antique shop. It no longer is used, but people in your audience will see this and say, oh, I have one of these things. And then finally, you have a hearth plate. People in Norway would carry these heavy hearth plates over from Norway.
Oh my goodness.
That's how valuable they were, because they would put them on a fire and make lefse, flatbread, all sorts of things. But that's how valuable it was, that they were willing to carry that thing from Norway.
Now this is cast aluminum or cast iron?
Cast iron. And then finally, we get into the cooling towels. And these are just old dishcloths that my grandma had. And again, I picked that up. I saw at her estate sale, I saw these things, and I said, oh, I got to have them because they're great for lefse. This is what is called a cuddler. When you do your lefse, you put it in there, cover it, and it softens and it keeps the warmth in. So that's basically what I use, and it works very well.
Terrific. Shall we clear things out and set up to begin to make some lefse?
Great, here we go.
Excellent. Welcome back to the kitchen with Gary Legwold and myself, Sue Ellen Zagrabelny. And Gary is going to be making lefse for us, and he's going to demonstrate how you put together the dough, and I'm going to let him take it from there.
Okay, so we went over the equipment, and I had made this dough previous to coming here. It's potatoes, butter, sugar, salt, and you add the flour right before you go. This is 3 cups of dough, and this will be 1.25 cups of flour. You can do 1.25 cups to 1.5 cups, but always start with less flour. You can always add more later, and you're going to be adding more as you roll. And then you just start kneading the flour into the dough. And the gluten in the flour will help us roll this rounds very thin. You want, a lot of people like very, very thin lefse, to the point where you can see some of the lefse boards have little markings on the board. You can see the markings through your lefse, and that's when you know it's good. Other people don't they like it a little bit thicker. So, but you need the flour into the dough, and then you let it sit. There's a couple of controversies in lefse making.
Okay.
So Ellen, I'll keep you abreast of this. One of them is hot or cold dough. The standard traditional way is cold dough.
Okay.
Because cold dough absorbs less flour. Less flour means tender lefse. More flour means tougher lefse.
Okay.
So I went with that for years until, and I always learn something from every lefse maker I meet. Every lefse maker I meet. So more than one, including Gene Olson, who is a champion lefse maker up in Deerwood, Minnesota, more than one people like Gene started telling me about warm lefse. Now, you try to tell the traditionalists about warm dough, rolling warm dough, and they just scoff. I can't stand to even hear about this because it'll turn out bad. But Gene Olson, she won the National Lefse Cook-Off in Barnesville, Minnesota, every year. That's part of the Potato Days, using warm dough. And I have tried it since then, and it works. It's easier to work with. Yes, it can be sticky, but as I said in the last segment, the more you do lefse making, the more you understand what you're working with. And so you can get around the stickiness. But it is super easy to push out. You don't have to work quite so hard. And so now we've got our dough. And if you just want to feel that, it's not dry, it's not really wet, it's kind of like Play-Doh.
Yeah, and it doesn't spring back. It stays, your fingerprints stay in it.
So we've added the flour and we're ready to roll. Okay, Sue Ellen, I had said that one of the controversies in Lefse making is warm versus cold dough. The other one is instant potatoes, using instant potatoes versus real potatoes. Again, many people, you even mention instant potatoes and it's like you're swearing at them. But some people don't want to go through the whole rigmarole of making Lefse with the boiling the potatoes, ricing, all that stuff. They just want to get to the fun part, which is the rolling. So this year in my classes, for the first time, I started using both real potatoes as well as instant potatoes. And we did a little taste test afterwards. And guess what? They said it's not bad. It's not bad. So my recommendation is if you want to cut the process short, go ahead once in a while and use instant potatoes. I was told that Potato Buds was the one to buy. I went to Kowalski's in my neighborhood, tried to find Potato Buds, couldn't find it. The closest I could find was this Betty Crocker mashed potatoes. But on the upper corner, it says same recipe as Potato Buds. So, okay, that's good for me. So, I keep an open mind with Lefse, and so I've found new horizons with instant potatoes.
So you have a mix, a Lefse mix. Tell us about that, please.
This is made by Jacob's Lefse in Osakis, Minnesota. WCCO-TV had an online poll as to the best Lefse in Minnesota, and Jacobs won. This is a couple of years ago. And they have always used a mix, not the real potato thing. So it does work.
So are we rested enough so that we can go back to the dough?
I will plug in the grill, let that get up to 500 degrees, and then we'll start rolling.
Okay, Gary, you're shaping the ball of dough in your hand. Now what's going to happen?
I take some time when I shape this ball of dough because people like round Lefse, and if you notice there can be little cracks in the edges unless you keep working it and get those cracks out of there. If the crack is in the edge here at this point, as you roll it out, you're going to have bigger cracks.
Okay.
And, you know, some people say, who cares? You know, it all goes down the same hole and it's good stuff. But I try to get it round. I mean, that's just my way. So I take about 1/3 of a cup. This is a little bit more. And I get it round. The edges are so that there's no cracks to start with. A lot of people they want to be bangers and squishers. You know, they start getting real tough with the Lefse. No, you just be very gentle and let the pin do the work. You start round to stay round.
And it's a very gentle motion.
It's a gentle motion. Also, kind of lift when you get to the edges, because if you don't, you can squish the edges. The edges will be thinner than the center. When you get it on the grill, those edges will burn.
Okay.
So, if possible, lift when you get to the edge. Now, when you get about halfway to the width that you want, and it can be any size that you want, then you turn it. And the reason you do that, because at this point, sticking to this surface is going to be the major problem. So if you lift it up, sort of break up that contact point between, see, you can see this darker spot. That's where your sticking spot would be. So if you move it, you avoid that sticking. So I'll
And so you're going to move the
turn the board a little bit. And now we push it out to the thinness that I want.
Let me get my hands out of the way here.
I'll move this toward the center a bit more.
You don't want to be wearing your best bib and tucker to be rolling Lefse. I wouldn't
No.
expect. You
I-
get full of flour.
Full of flour. It's all over the kitchen, all over your feet. I have a picture in my book, Keep on Rolling, of I have a green carpet stairs and footprints of white footprints on the green carpet stairs.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. But, you know, if you don't mind the mess and you like homemade stuff, it's an excellent way to spend a cold winter day, and you just feel cozy and comfortable with your grandma's recipe and your grandma's bowl and your grandma's pin. All right, so we are in pretty good shape in terms of the size that I want. You know, some of the older Lefse rolling pins, they were like 22 inches. This is about 16. They were 22 inches because they were making them on the old cook stoves. And they had a whole surface. So they could make big kite-like Lefse and then flop it on the stove and then turn it. But here we're limited to this grill, which is 16 inches.
Okay.
So we can't go. In fact, this one may be kind of tight, but we'll manage. So when I put my stick underneath, the stick has got a beveled edge, and if you don't do it right, you can spear your Lefse.
Okay.
So you beveled edge down, keep your handle high so that you don't get halfway in, and then you spear it. And then you do it about a third of the way in so that you have a bit of a lip that will catch on the grill. So I lift, carry, drape it over and roll it out. Bingo, bango, bongo.
Perfectamundo.
So a lot of people get to this point and they relax. Oh, I rolled out a nice round of Lefse, and they got it on the grill and then they burn it. So the overriding thing with Lefse is its tenderness. People, the recipes vary, but that moisture, that tenderness, that's the overriding thing. So you don't want to burn it. When you start to see these little bubbles, you turn it. So this is a little bit underdone. Side A is a little bit underdone. I call this mamby-pamby Lefse. It just looks mamby-pamby. It doesn't have quite the big bold spots that I like. But I'm retaining the moisture. I'm keeping the moisture in. So the downside now, side B, that's going to be my show side. And that's the side that's going to have, I like the bolder spots. I like the speckles that show up. So when you look from the top down, you'll see the brown spots starting to form, and then you pull it. There's no law against flipping it and checking it to see if you like it.
But you run the risk of losing moisture, right?
You run the risk of losing moisture. Tender Lefse is what you want, and the rest will take care of itself. And if you pull it too early and it's a little bit chewy, no problem, but you just don't want to burn it.
Oh, it looks beautiful.
So there you go.
Beauteous.
That's beauty. And there's a thing that goes, some art that goes on when you have the Lefse grill in contact with the round. Okay, so you get it over here to our Lefse cozy, and I put it on the wrong part. This part here. Now, a woman by the name of Amy Marquardt in Foley, Minnesota came up with this, and you cover it. You want it to cool, but you don't want all that moisture to escape. So if you could put it on the surface here and it would cool, but it would dry out.
Okay.
So as you roll your Lefse and create a stack, the warmth and the moisture of each Lefse is going to keep softening all that pile. In fact, I've burned some edges, and I'll put it in this pile, and by the end of the day, I'll go back and I'll say, where's that burnt edge? And I can't find it. It's been restored by the pile. I call it Lazarus Lefse.
Okay.
So that's the process.
Would you like to make another round,
I
just
would.
to give everybody one more lesson?
I would, sure. This one I'm going to make a little bit smaller. I would recommend anybody starting out to start with small 8 to 10 inches. They're a little bit more, they're easier to handle. And frankly, when you get to the dinner table, you get a lefse of that size near elbow to elbow at Thanksgiving. Where am I going to spread this butter and sugar and cinnamon? With a smaller lefse, it's easier to do at your table. So I tend to make mine around 10 to 12 inches. So go ahead.
So you'll put more flour on here,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, I've started using a sifter. I just like the sound of it, and so
That's really a cool sifter. I
Yeah.
really like those
and it's
kinds.
small and it's not huge. And then I'll cover the sock as well. Now, you don't want to get too much, but you don't want to have too little.
And that just comes with experience.
And that comes with experience, yeah. And as I said, if you do it more than once a year, then you get to know how to make lefse. And you get that satisfaction of carrying on the tradition that was started in your family by your grandmother or whatever, and passing it on to your grandkids. And all right, so I'm working the edges to make sure we don't have any cracks. I think we're good to go. Again, gentle. Start round, stay round, lift at the edges. There's something hypnotic and meditative in the thumping of this board. Sometimes I'll make my lefse early in the morning before everybody gets up, and it's real peaceful, real quiet, and it's like memories start coming. And some people have lefse fests, so invite all their relatives and friends over and make up 50 pounds of potatoes and get stations going all over the place, and then they'll start rolling and divvy up the proceeds.
Well, that was true with the church that I used to belong in.
Yeah.
Some of the younger members asked some of the elders if they'd teach them how to make lefse, and they peeled and cooked up the potatoes and brought people together, and they had something like 25 or 30 people making lefse in the kitchen and in the fellowship hall, and they had just a grand time.
Yeah, it's always laughter, always laughter. Lefse kind of just makes you forget about whatever's bugging you, and you enjoy the people. It's fun to get intergenerational things going. You know, the grandkids working with the grandparents, and they learn about each other, and they learn about each other's ways, you know. Social media is not in play during a lefse round or lefse making session. All right, so this is a little bit smaller, but so again, we go a third of the way, have a little bit of a lip. I'm going to get rid of that little piece, whatever. Now, see how thin that is? You know, it's backlit. And it's still very tough because the gluten within the flour has been holding this together. And there you go, another round of lefse.
And the bubbles start up right away.
The bubbles start up right away, and, you know,
It kind of goes from the outside in, it looks like.
and you got 500 degrees. That's a very hot surface. So now we get big bubbles. It's time to turn it. And again, if it's too early, okay, big deal.
Oh, this came out beautifully.
Yeah. And I love to see the little steam that's spewing out. Now, while you're waiting for that, you can start, you know, a lot of people make their balls beforehand, and so they know how many rounds they've got in this batch.
Well, we'll do one more for good measure because we've got some time.
There you go. Yeah. Now, these little freckles, I love them. I love the little freckle things.
Yes.
There's art. Again, there's art that happens when the round of Lefse meets the grill. Okay, so these Lefse are cooling each other and softening things up. You know, a lot of people say, well, I really like it fresh off the grill, but actually you should let it cool a little bit, because when it comes off the grill, it's kind of it's hot, number one, and it's sort of crispy in spots where the brown spots were. So let it cool, let it soften, and then serve it. It's still warm, but all right. There are many ways to make Lefse. The important thing is to just do it. A lot of people are intimidated by the mess, and frankly, there's a lot, no doubt about it, but the payoff is worth it.
So while you're rolling that out, let's talk for a moment again about your most recent book, Keep On Rollin'. And what's the subtitle of the book?
Life on the Lefse Trail and Learning to Get Around. Around. 2 words.
Okay, and that of course is a reference to the Lefse round. I understand.
Right.
I assume.
Yeah.
And people can obtain the book from your website. Is that correct?
Yes. Lefseking.com. www.lefseking.com. They can obtain the new book, Keep On Rolling. They can obtain Last Word on Lefse, and they can obtain the rolling pins. They can obtain the sticks, the lutefisk books that I have, the Last Word on Lutefisk and the Last Toast to Lutefisk. I've got prints on sale, prints from the Keep On Rolling book, Lefse scenes, that that were done by Jill Kittock. My song, Keep On Rolling, the score is available for purchase there. And then there's, oh yeah, my Lefse. I do a Keep On Rolling Lefse. I make, for private orders, I make Lefse for people, and so they can order it there.
So you're just a full-service, one-stop Lefse store.
I am. I'm going to start selling the grills from Bethany. They're going to supply me with grills, so if you want a grill. And Becky Lacka, who I told you about, she has written a children's book. My grandmother makes Lefse, so I sell that on my website.
Okay, we've run out of time, so let's take a moment to say thank you to our guests. Thank you for joining us at Mary's Eclectic Interests. We look forward to seeing you next time, and until then, keep on rolling.